Welcome one and all to Fandom Wars. Now before we even begin, I can already hear what you all are saying. Soularia, what is Fandom Wars and how does it work? Well, first off, that's a very good question. Fandom Wars is a series where popular Roblox fandoms battle each other. For every fandom that is summarized, there will be a visual scoreboard where I rank them based on how chill and innocent the fandom is, how unhinged it is, and high drama. So we'll have 4 different winners of Fandom Wars: the most chill and innocent, the most unhinged and chaotic, and the most high drama. As of course, I won't just be saying this fandom sucks the whole time, as I'll also be considering the good and creative sides of all fandoms I'm ranking. So without any further ado, let's get started. 99 Nights in the Forest. Let's start with this fandom. If you don't know what the game is, the basic gameplay loop is pretty simple. Oh no, scary deer, save missing children, dino kid, koala kid, kraken kid, etc. Build, gather resources, avoid dangerous animals. I've even heard 99 Nights is based on a real story, but that's beside the point. With a game like that, there is no way the fandom could get weird, right? Well, yes and no. On TikTok and YouTube, most of the content is actually pretty normal. Guides, building tips, gameplay strategies, the usual stuff you'd expect from a survival game community. But once you dig a little deeper, yep, you start finding music videos about the deer, the same deer that's literally hunting you in-game being pregnant. Yeah, I'm pretty sure future scientists are going to question the very fabric of reality when they study our internet history. Like seriously, why does this exist? Why did a human being wake up one day and decide to spend their time, effort, and creativity making this? It's honestly bizarre to think about. But I guess that's just what happens when a game gets popular enough. Welcome to TikTok. Not like it's the first time we've been here before. Surprisingly though, most of the search results are still pretty normal, but since TikTok is, well, TikTok, the fandom still has some questionable corners, which is honestly impressive considering the game is literally just build, avoid deer, find missing children, gather resources. But hey, it doesn't matter how basic your game is. If something exists, the fandom will find a way to make it weird. For example, TikTok edits of the deer being gender bent. Great. And then we have the classic fixing art trend. Look, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I get the intention. People want to normalize something, but it doesn't actually solve the underlying problem. The art is still out there, so while it feels like fixing something, it's basically like putting a bandage on a broken arm. It looks helpful, but the real issue is still there. Now, aside from the TikTok chaos, there's also something happening on YouTube. Specifically, a channel called OG Soda, also known as Yeepel Director. On the surface, it looks innocent, just another TikTok compilation channel. But there are a few things that raise some eyebrows. Clickbait thumbnails of videos taken directly from TikTok, and no credit. Now maybe this is just me, but I'm pretty sure OG Soda used to have more than just 13 uploads, so I can only assume they either privated or deleted a bunch of videos. Why? No idea, and honestly we'll probably never know. Another thing worth pointing out is the blatantly obvious AI generated description. Like seriously, does this actually sound like a human wrote it? Draw dropping challenges, endless fun, spreading positivity and creativity. And then of course, the emojis. But if that wasn't obvious enough already, there's one line that completely gives it away. This should make the description more engaging and visually appealing. Yup, they literally forgot to remove the AI instruction line. No editing, no cleanup, nothing. So what you end up with is just AI filler and generic TikTok compilations. No soul, no passion, no authenticity, just content designed to cash in on Roblox TikTok. Now, from what I can tell, 99 Nights in the Forest isn't really a high drama fandom overall. There has been some controversy about the developers supposedly being greedy, but compared to other communities, the drama level is pretty mild. So here's the final ranking. For innocence and how chill the fandom is, I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, for unhinged or questionable behavior, yeah, that's about a 7 out of 10. And for high drama, maybe a 4. Not perfect, but definitely not the worst we've seen. Alright, on to the next fandom. Well, it's definitely not the first time we've been here before. Searching up Dandy's World on YouTube gives results that are both normal and questionable. Dandy's World memes, Dandy's World griefers, Dandy's World floor 100, and one of the top search results is Dandy's World fart. I wish I was kidding. Now, my main concern is this. What if someone is completely new to the fandom and they search up Dandy's World, and that's one of the first things they see? Yeah, not exactly the best first impression. Now, sure, you could argue it's just humor, absurd humor maybe, but it's pretty clear that this kind of content has taken a slightly darker direction. And the craziest part? Some of the channels making these outright bizarre videos have over 10,000 subscribers, which means there's a dedicated part of the fandom actively watching and subscribing to this stuff. Now let's get something straight. It's very, and I mean very clear that Dandy's World is branded to appeal to younger audiences. The colors, the characters, the cartoon aesthetic, it all practically screams, this is kid-friendly. And I'm not saying that's the developer's fault. What I'm saying is that it's just very strange how games like this tend to attract the weirder side of fandom culture. Because on the surface, Dandy's World actually has a pretty creative and normal fandom. You've got edits, fan art, songs, memes, parodies, and I'll give the fandom credit where it's due. It can get really creative. I've seen the good side of the fandom, the AUs, the edits, the animation content. Honestly, it can be pretty wholesome to see. Even Quell, the owner and developer, clearly has talent. Her animation content on YouTube is smooth, clean, and really well executed. So to the good side of the Dandy's World fandom, keep going, because that side of the community is genuinely nice to see. With the good side of something, there's always the bad side lurking somewhere nearby. Heat content. If you don't know what heat means, it's basically a sanitized way people refer to explicit or suggestive content. Now, from what I can tell, most of the toons in Dandy's World are adults or simply don't have confirmed ages. The only clear minors are Toodles and Gordy. On YouTube, these more questionable videos tend to appear mostly on shorts. Sometimes regular videos too, but shorts is where they show up the most. And on TikTok, yeah, it's absolutely not any better. We've got some of the most bizarre Dandy cosplays imaginable, and please don't even get me started on the shipping side of the fandom. Finding genuinely good Dandy's World content on TikTok sometimes feels like trying to find a needle in a haystack. As for drama, Dandy's World has had its fair share of problems as well. There's been controversy involving a developer named Rox, hacking concerns, and a reoccurring issue known as griefing and toxicity, where players intentionally sabotage matches just to get reactions. Of course, I'm not a drama channel, so I'm not going to go too deep into that side of things. But overall, for how innocent and chill the fandom is, 6 out of 10. For how unhinged and questionable it can get, 9.5 out of 10. And for drama, 6.5 out of 10. Let's see if it gets any better from here. Well, if you thought things were going to get any better from here, the answer is no. Why, you might ask? Because we're diving into the Forsaken fandom. Now, if you don't know what Forsaken is, think of it as Dead by Daylight but with Roblox myths and characters thrown into the mix. On the surface, it just looks like another asymmetrical horror game, but there actually is lore behind it. The characters are eternally forsaken, hence the name. But we're not here to dive into the game itself or its lore, because something else that's eternally forsaken is the fandom. Now, if you search up Forsaken on YouTube, the main results are usually pretty standard. Chase themes, character showcases, guides, clips, and then the weird stuff starts appearing. And at this point I have to ask, why do I feel like Dandy's World and Forsaken somehow share the exact same fandom? Like seriously, what is it with large fandoms where the search results always contain something bizarre? Why does this keep happening? The typical Forsaken content is what you'd expect. Fan edits, montages, gameplay clips, showcases, but actually finding consistently good content in this fandom sometimes feels like trying to find a needle in a haystack. So of course, we're going to dive into TikTok, also known as Hell. Is it going to be good? Why am I even asking that? The answer is obviously no. Because when you search Forsaken on TikTok, there's about a 99.99% chance you're going to stumble across something weird or outright cursed. Like seriously, what is wrong with this fandom? The characters are literally just Roblox legends and original characters, why are we like this? Now, as for the drama side of things, yeah, it's not much better. Forsaken has had its fair share of drama over time. One thing worth mentioning is a YouTuber named Jack. They're not someone who's personally involved in drama, but more of a drama-focused channel that covers anything related to Forsaken or other popular games. And it's not just Jack either. There are quite a few channels that do this Forsaken news style of content, basically reporting on anything happening in the community and trying to make it seem bigger so it attracts views. The problem with this kind of content, though, is that it rarely becomes memorable long term. Once a few days pass, people move on and start searching for the next thing. There's also been other notable moments in the fandom, like the infamous soul-driven love drama, and then there's something called the Spawnism cult. For those who don't know, Spawnism is a fictional cult within Roblox Forsaken associated with the character 2Time. From what I understand, it was originally meant to be part of the game's lore. But let's just say it spiraled into something far worse than anyone expected. Okay, yeah, I'm probably getting a bit too negative here. So let's talk about the good side for a moment. Because even though the Forsaken fandom can be an absolute nightmare, every popular community has its bad side and its good side. There are clean edits of the characters, fan art, they use memes, and speaking of memes, the fandom can actually be pretty creative with its humor, including things like completely unhinged Vigo AI parodies. But even after considering the good side, I think we can all agree this fandom is still a bit of a disaster. For how innocent and chill it is, 3 out of 10, for how unhinged it is, 10 out of 10, and for high drama, 8 out of 10. Let's just hope things get better from here. Next up on our list is Bear Alpha, which still remains fairly popular within the asymmetrical horror genre on Roblox. Outside of that, though, it's honestly kind of a niche game. Now, I haven't played Bear Alpha in ages, but basically it's an asymmetrical horror game released in 2019, where one player becomes the bear and their job is to eliminate all the survivors before the 4-minute timer runs out. So pretty much the classic asymmetrical horror format. And even though it's been years since the game was released, it's technically still in alpha. At this point, I guess that's just part of the branding. Plus, the name Bear by itself isn't exactly unique, so calling it Bear Alpha probably helps people actually find the game. Now, when I look up Bear Alpha on YouTube, most of the content is exactly what you'd expect. Guides, gameplay, funny moments, and Sora AI edits. I have absolutely no idea why those exist, but they're there. But aside from that, finally, one normal fandom that isn't complete content farm hell. So scoreboard time. For how innocent and chill the fandom is, 9 out of 10. For how unhinged and weird it is, 2 out of 10. And for high drama, 2 out of 10. Honestly, I still have no idea why Bear Alpha is still this popular after all these years. My best guess is that newer asymmetrical games like Forsaken, You vs. Homer, and Die of Death probably helped revive interest in it. And speaking of Die of Death, that's exactly what the next fandom is. And here we are, the Die of Death fandom. If you don't already know what Die of Death is, it's an asymmetrical retro-style Roblox horror game that basically parodies the genre. Similar to Forsaken, it features multiple killers hunting down survivors, except the abilities are completely ridiculous. We're talking banana peels, guns, and other random chaos. Now, I haven't actually played Die of Death myself, but we're not really here to talk about the game. We're here to dive into the chaos that is the fandom. And honestly, it's kind of an interesting one. Unlike Dandy's World or Forsaken, where finding normal content feels like trying to find a needle in a haystack, the Die of Death fandom still feels somewhat innocent. Most of the YouTube search results are actually normal. Edits, gameplay, memes, compilations, skin showcases, OST uploads, parody videos, new modes, pretty standard stuff. Except for TikTok. We don't talk about the TikTok search results. At least, not yet. But overall, the interesting thing about the Die of Death community is that it sits in this weird middle ground between a questionable fandom and a normal fandom. Compared to something like Dandy's World or Forsaken, it honestly doesn't feel nearly as bad. But does that mean we're going to ignore the bad side? No, because unfortunately we now have to embrace the inevitable, the TikTok nightmare. This edit of Pursuer dancing somehow feels creepy, but also like something I'd see in a fever dream. Hold on a second. A normal wholesome comic dub in a fandom on TikTok? What treasure have I stumbled upon? Ah yes, buff edits of the characters. Great. TikTok is basically a coin flip. You either find genuinely good edits and creative content, or you find whatever this is supposed to be. Either way, Die of Death ends up being a bit of a mixed bag. 6.5 out of 10 for fandom innocence, 7 out of 10 for how unhinged it is, and for high drama. Let's just say there's been a cancelled collaboration, the developer Saucify 10 got into some trouble, and there's been some negative player feedback floating around. So overall, probably a 5 out of 10 on the drama scale. Well, here we are again, with all 6 fandoms ranked: 99 Nights in the Forest, Dandy's World, Forsaken, Bear Alpha, and Die of Death. The results of Fandom Wars are finally in. So the winners: most innocent and casual fandom, Bear Alpha; highest drama, Forsaken; most unhinged fandom, also Forsaken. Now, while Fandom Wars might just look like me saying, this fandom is bad, or this fandom is weird, that's not really the point. What these fandoms actually raise are bigger questions. How do retro-style games, or even just normal games meant for general audiences, attract the weirder, more questionable sides of fandom culture? Take something like Dandy's World. It's a colorful survival horror game with cartoon characters, yet it's also known for having a pretty bizarre community, and Forsaken has a similar situation. The reality is, no matter how normal a game might seem, even something simple like 99 Nights in the Forest, once it becomes popular enough, it's almost guaranteed to attract the questionable side of internet culture. And in today's internet culture, if something exists, a fandom will probably find a way to turn it into something darker. They don't really care if it's something serious or something completely ridiculous. If it exists, it will eventually get that treatment. But the real question is, why does this happen in the first place? The easiest answer is just the internet being the internet, which is technically true, but a big part of it probably comes down to algorithms and reactions. Take a game like Dandy's World: colorful aesthetic, cartoon characters, horror themes, lore. You'd naturally expect normal content like gameplay videos, news, and discussions, and at first that's exactly what happens. But then a few strange or sus videos appear, they get attention, then more people make similar content, suddenly it becomes a niche, and then that niche keeps expanding. Shock value, bizarre edits, questionable content. Unfortunately, these are exactly the kinds of things algorithms tend to reward, and when people see that type of content constantly, it slowly starts to feel normal. With smaller or niche fandoms, this usually isn't a huge issue. But when two major factors combine, popularity and algorithms, a fandom can spiral pretty quickly. That's why most Roblox fandoms, and honestly most fandoms in general, are never truly perfect. There will always be that weird side of the community, the people who want to twist things. But before I end things off, there are still a lot more fandoms I want to explore. So in the future, there might be a Fandom Wars Part 2, maybe even a Part 3, who knows. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you all next time.